Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. It's that time of the year again where we celebrate the women, as we were saying at the beginning of the program.
You mean as I was saying?
Okay, as Nota was saying at the beginning of the program, we didn't say it, he said it. Yes, and he paid us a lot of compliments, and once again, on our behalf, I say thank you very much. At least there's one man who appreciates women. Thank you, Lord.
Some men will shoot me for that.
So tomorrow is International Women's Day, and we should celebrate the achievements of women from the political to the social. But we're still looking at the issue of gender equality. It's been 20 years since Beijing. So how far have we come since Beijing in achieving all those things that we spoke about in Beijing, and the women all came back and we were clapping for them, you know. This year's theme, however, is I Am Generation Equality, Realizing Women's Rights. We have in the studio with us Mrs. Juliette Benitier. Of course, you all know her by now. Good morning, Juliette. How are you?
Good morning, Angela.
The Institute for Transformational Change.
Institute for National Transformation.
National Transformation. And in Abuja, we have the UN Women Country Representative.
She's yet to arrive. She's still on her way.
Okay, all right. Then we shall go to Abuja once we get Comfort Lamptey with us there. In the meantime, Mrs. Benitier, I Am Generation Equality, Realizing Women's Rights. What exactly does that mean?
Well, United Nations sets an agenda under the United Nations Women annually on setting goals and achievement after 25 years of, they are celebrating Beijing after 25 years.
Oh, 25.
And to mark and to evaluate and to see. And fundamentally, the issue of gender equality. So they are asking everybody to participate in ensuring. So all generation, all people, we need the men, the women, everybody.
Nyota will lead the way. Lead the men, yes,
Everybody to focus and see how we can achieve the gender equality gap and the issues that attend to such things. And also promoting the women's rights forward, which depends on which spectrum you are, what you support and don't support.
So before we get into that, the women's right thing, the question I would like to ask is, which is preferred, equality or equity?
Well, it depends what you define as equality. Equality will breed equity. Equity is about justice, balances, and fairness.
Yes.
So, but again, an inequality could create that injustice. So it depends what you are defining as equality. Equality needs to be understood that is different from domestic roles in the spouses, husband and wife issues. So, and that's where the dichotomy is. A lot of people's confusion comes from the fact that they do not understand that when we said gender equality, we're not saying domestic roles. So people hear the sound, gender equality, the sound in their ear, inner ear, because of the issue of culture, value, religion, and all that. They are hearing the sound, oh, they're telling me equality at home, wife, husband issue, you know. The sound is ringing in the head. So, but that's not what it is. We need to separate what equality is from domestic roles within a family, where they deal with the issues of husband leading, wife also leading, children and their place. That's not what the entire society is. You are not my head. I have only one in house for the Christian point of view. I mean, Alero is sitting down here, Auntie Alero is here as a woman leader in the media sector. So we need to understand that that equality is a confusion, not just to the men. The men are not just the fundamental problem, is how also the women understand it. Even for some women, when you push them out of a certain mode and want them to demonstrate leadership, because leadership is not gender-based. Leadership is a humanity word. Every one of us are called to lead our world to a better life and a better achievement, where everybody's needs are respected.
So what's wrong with, I hear you, I hear you, that leadership is not a male or female thing.
Yes.
But what's wrong with each taking a leadership role in a particular sphere? For instance, as a woman, I could want to take a leadership role in teaching young women how to garden or how to cook.
There's nothing wrong with that. As long as that's their desire. The thing is that you're not stereotyping the fact that maybe the woman, because she's female, she should just
Should be the one to
cooking.
teach.
I mean, and the unfortunate thing is that even at the global level, the best of cooks and
men.
chefs are men. So if this expertise in our kitchen has not even produced leadership in the public space, we know that there is an issue even within our minds. So it's not the men issue. So because we are great cooks at home, we browse ourselves to the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. But the way to the society's heart, we're not even there to demonstrate leadership. So there is a limitation also in the mind of many women based on society, upbringing, and culture. Depending on your background, it determines how you think. Everything about you is an environmental issue. So if you want to deal with yourself, you need to examine. And for me, United Nations needs to examine deeper issues rather than just us keep cutting the trees and the branches.
Branches,
There are root
leaving the
issues.
roots, yeah,
Why?
okay.
I mean, we're fighting for things like a new word now is coming, talking about binary, that you should not look at people and determine their sex. For example, they say we should not say mankind. We should say humankind. So, all sorts of things that are coming that are irrelevant. They are quite irrelevant. These are human issues that are not fundamental. They are not breaking the bank. They are not going to put food on the table. They are not liberating. So, but for some people, they'll be offended. Like, why did she call me a she? Did I tell her I'm a she? I'm this. So these are the issues that we don't really know.
I'm just thinking about what you said, that there's some people you look at and it's difficult for you to tell whether they're male or female.
So, but those are not even fundamental. Exactly. So
they're human beings.
They're human beings. So the human being is the focus.
That's
the
the
issue
most
of
important thing.
pro-abortion. So you leave those things that are people's choices. Let us deal with the issue of education and gender violence, the things that are really oppressive.
That's where I'm going.
Abuja is.
Oh, okay. Mrs. Comfort Lamte, who is the UN.
Country representative to Nigeria. Nico.
Thank you very much. Okay. Good morning, Comfort.
Good morning from Abuja.
Happy Women's Day, even though it's not till tomorrow.
Indeed, happy International Women's Day to you and all the viewers.
Thank you very much. Now, we've kicked the conversation off in Lagos, and I was just about to ask Juliet this question, but I'll move it to you. One of the issues dealt with at length in Beijing was the issue of gender-based violence. I mean, although we appreciate that it is not only women who suffer that, men also suffer that, but of course, by and large, it is mainly women who suffer domestic violence. How far have we come from the days of Beijing? Any improvement in that area?
I would say we have. I think globally we have. Many countries have actually adopted legislation to protect women against gender-based violence. Even right here in Nigeria, I believe the 2015 Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act actually does that. Of course, we still have a situation where most states have not domesticated the act. But all over the world, countries have adopted legislation. What we see as challenging is the move from adopting a piece of legislation to implementation of that legislation. So I think that's where the challenge remains now. And I think we've also seen a breaking of the silence on gender-based violence, because in many societies around the world previously where people will not talk about it because of shame, because of fear, because of stigmatization, We are seeing more and more, and even most recently we saw through the Me Too movement that women are speaking up, women are challenging the idea that, you know, you have to sort of grin and bear it. And so I think that the breaking of the silence is also a good and an important development. Of course, when a woman breaks the silence, the institutions, the services, the community attitude all have to also be in support of ensuring that that person isn't further victimized or blamed, but that that person is supported to be able to recover. And so I think the work is still unfinished as far as addressing gender-based violence, but we are making progress. And here in Nigeria, most recently, the United Nations, together with the European Union, actually signed one of the biggest investments in gender-based violence globally, the what we call the EU-UN Spotlight Initiative. It's a global initiative. It's a $500 million investment just focused on addressing issues of gender-based violence around the world. And in Africa, 8 countries, including Nigeria, is a part of it. So I think we are taking steps in the right direction, but the work that we have to do is still enormous. And prevention, obviously, is the key to addressing gender-based violence. A lot of times we are just addressing the impact of gender-based violence, but I think we need to put a lot more investment in preventing that, addressing the root causes of the factors that make women vulnerable to gender-based violence.
Okay, Comfort. We need to manage our time, you see. Quickly, a lot of people translate all this Beijing thing into feminism. But we know that it is not about feminism. It is just about equal rights. We're talking humanity. Where do we draw the line?
So equal rights, as far as I would say that equal rights, it's feminism is about fighting for equal rights, human rights. I think one of the biggest statements that was made in Beijing was that women's rights are human rights. They are rights which all states, including Nigeria, have signed on to the belief that we are all born equal, and that what we have to do is create an environment where both men and women can enjoy these rights. I believe that that is essentially at the heart of feminism as well. And maybe there have been misunderstanding and misinterpretations of it, but essentially we are embarked on a journey to ensure that we remove the barriers that prevent women, and there are barriers. They are institutional, they are social, they are cultural barriers that prevent women from accessing these rights. And that is what the United Nations is working to support. And I believe that's also in line with what feminism is about as well.
Ms. Amte, the question of mindset is what bothers me in the need to push forward for human rights, women's rights, which is, as I said, is human rights. The mindset and how to change that mindset. Because in different parts, you have issues of culture, all sorts of influences that affect the mindset. So what's being done to affect the mindset towards where we're headed?
So the change in mindsets, I mean, oftentimes we don't see the change coming from women. We see that society has to change, actually. Both men have to change their mindsets. But, you know, some of these influences are so deep-rooted that we actually take them as almost normal, as given. And that's the most difficult part. So I think some of the initiatives that we're supporting, like He for She, which the UN is supporting and UN Women is supporting, is really part of that journey of changing mindsets, because we're saying that men can actually also challenge these systems, these structures that privilege men over women. Women also, as custodians of culture, sometimes inadvertently even uphold some of these practices that don't necessarily advance their rights. So it's a long-term engagement, and we have to start young. We have to start with our young people. Sometimes when people are much older, it's more difficult to change their mindsets, but I think we have an opportunity with a lot of the young people, and thankfully Africa is a young continent. So I hope we can continue to press on, educate both men and women, and hopefully we will make progress.
Mrs. Benite talked about the fact that sometimes the women are their own problem. Sometimes the women are the ones who hinder the attainment of those rights that are theirs. So is there a particular effort targeted towards women in particular in this area?
Well, I think, I beg to differ on that point because, I think sometimes we use that as an excuse to say, women, you're your own worst enemy, you don't help yourself. But, we can point to several examples where women stand up for each other. And I think that is valid. But certainly men and women are both products of patriarchy. And because we sometimes we uphold women as the custodians of culture, sometimes women are involved in upholding cultural practices that may not necessarily be in their best interests, as I said. So indeed, the work of education, the work of changing mindsets applies as much to women as to men. But in a system where women are those who are most discriminated against, I do think that there is enough solidarity, there's enough bonding amongst women who recognize that actually, who see and feel discrimination. And so there are many points of solidarity amongst women to fight some of the social injustices in society, and we must build on that. And just like men, we will not always agree on everything, but I don't think that should be the focus. I think the focus should be on helping women to work together to actually dismantle some of these patriarchal attitudes and systems that hold all of us back, not just women, but a whole society back at the end of the day.
Well, okay, we'll go on.
Would you therefore say that we have something to celebrate tomorrow?
I believe so. Tomorrow, International Women's Day this year is a very special one because it's marking 25 years since we adopted the biggest blueprint for women's rights, the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. And as I said earlier, although we haven't progressed as much as we can celebrate the small victories that we have made in terms of the laws that have been passed, in the terms of the fact that we have more girls in school now. Of course, one of the Beijing the critical areas of concern was the girl child. We have more girls in school now than ever before. Maternal mortality rates are low, although they're still high when you look at the figures in Nigeria. So it's a bit of a mixed lesson.
Permit me to interrupt you here very quickly. We need to go on a very short break. We'll come back and you pick up from that point where you left off why we need to celebrate tomorrow, please. Do stay with us.
The International Women's Day is set aside to celebrate women's achievement and step up calls for gender equality. As far as the Bank of Industry is concerned, this is a cause worth driving based on experiences with their female customers.
BOI is a firm believer in gender equality and has positioned itself to ensure that women-owned and women-led enterprises are able to access cheap financing over long tenure and with favorable terms.
The long list of invited guests from both the public and private sectors of the economy, made up of successful women, clearly defines the place of women in the bank's scheme of operations.
Please clap some more as Dr. Hajo Sani comes forward.
Speaking on the topic, women entrepreneurs as role models, the guest speaker, Dr. Hajo Sani, emphasizes the importance of women supporting one another.
It is estimated that women-owned entities represent over 30% of registered businesses worldwide. I don't know how many percent for Nigeria. Unfortunately, on average, only 5 to 10% of women-owned entities have access to commercial bank loans.
I just want to, set the tone a little bit.
The panelist, riding on the topic, I Am Generation Equality, Realizing Women's Rights, share inspiring stories of their journey, as well as various ways they are giving other women the chance to excel.
All I'm asking for is give women a fair playing field. Okay. Don't make decisions that affect our lives at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning. Make them when the women are seated at the table and they can lend their voice to whatever it is.
What about the bulk of the Nigerian women who are not catered to, who do not have people to speak out for them, who do not have access to so many things that we in the urban cities take for granted? And now I can tell you with age, with experience, and with wisdom, I'm beginning to focus on such things. And that's why in the Channels Media Group, I make it a point of duty to look out for the women.
Our second set of panelists discuss the topic, Realizing Your Goals and Aspirations.
By your strong will, by your determination, a woman can become anything you want to become.
You have to work twice as hard. You have to come to the table with competence, with knowledge, and with some confidence as well.
The 2020 International Women's Day has as its theme, Each for Equal, highlighting all actions required to challenge stereotypes, fight prejudices, and celebrate women's achievement. Chris Illems, Channels Television News.
Thank you for staying with us. We're still looking at the International Women's Day and our closing moment. Ms. Lamte, you were talking about why the need to celebrate tomorrow. You talked about the gains that there are and other reasons. Please go ahead.
Yes, so I was talking about the fact that we've come a long way since 25 years ago. We have some laws in place. We have made some steps in addressing issues such as getting more girls in education, addressing the needs of the girl child, issues around maternal mortality. But you know, International Women's Day is both about celebrating the achievements of women, but it's also about recognizing what more needs to be done, the unfinished business. And I must say that when we do a stock taking overall in terms of how far we've come in the last 25 years. The picture is mixed, and we see that we have still a lot to do. Right here in Nigeria, we still need legislation that will support or address the issues of underrepresentation of women in public life. You know, we have a situation where under 5% of women are elected in office, which is one of the lowest in Africa. We also have a situation where poverty still has a female face, and rural poverty is real. Most women are in the agricultural sector, but we still see that women are still operating largely at the subsistence level, and so trying to address the issues of rural poverty and poverty facing women is also an important challenge that still besets us. So I think if we look at the picture overall, we still have a long way to go. But International Women's Day helps us to take stock of how far we've come and galvanize our energies to do more. And I hope that with this 25th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration, we will actually do that stock taking in Nigeria and galvanize ourselves to address the persistent challenges in the period ahead.
Juliet, we have to wind down now, so I want your last word on this. We're celebrating tomorrow. What exactly are we celebrating?
Well, we're celebrating the consciousness of women understand that leadership, they are part of leadership, and leadership is not gender-based. Leadership is everybody, both male and female are leaders. And for me, I want to see in the next years to come to challenge other women to encourage and begin to mentor. I believe that women who have experienced and gone through the ladder to become leaders and able to be vocal can have the opportunity of having a campaign that each woman leader raising other female leaders, because they need role models. They need those who have challenged the status quo, have overcome, those who are probably abused and called all sorts of names because they chose to be different. We need them to be celebrated and also to challenge them to mentor another generation. So if we have that campaign of one woman mentoring 25 in the next few years, more women will rise, because it is easier for them to see me leading and know that it is possible with other things balanced around me.
And
that is
quickly,
my dream.
how can we have more women in the political space?
More women in the political space, two things. They must be trained and the consciousness to know that they can lead. And number three, giving the opportunities by having support systems to enable them to lead. The fact is that even women in politics sometimes is frowned out. It's as if it is not, I'm a female, I don't need that. I can lead in certain sector, but that sector, no. The same thing with the rural women, that even though you are rural, as we talk about training and education, they should have a sense that leadership is about taking responsibility. Leadership is about helping humanity.
And it's all
leadership
here.
is all from here and the heart. And as we get that clearer and clearer, like I was speaking to someone at the back room, the issue of the moral code, knowing what is right, and that no man has a right to beat his wife, and no woman also has a right to be violent. Violence
beat
is
her husband.
unacceptable at all rate. I don't
Okay.
care what the woman does. You
Okay.
do not have that right.
Thank you very much. Judith Beniche of the Institute for National Transformation. And we also had Comfort Lamte from Abuja, and she is the United Nations Women Country Representative to Nigeria and ECOWAS. Thank you both very much for coming to share your insights with us tomorrow. And happy International Women's Day to you two and
Thank you,
to
ma'am.
all women
Yes.
watching us this morning.
Let's celebrate.
Sunrise will be right back. Do stay with us.